After being going to Japan multiple times in the last 3 years, I have some things to share that I think will be very useful if you're planning a trip to Japan, especially if it's gonna be your first time to Japan. These are the things that I wish I knew before I visit Japan for the very first time. But even if it's not your first time traveling to Japan, I'm sure you're gonna find something useful from this video. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm gonna have different sections in this video so you can know what to prepare before the trip and what are the things that you have to pay attention to during the trip. So let's start with the first stage, which is planning and the preparation. If it's going to be your first time traveling to Japan, you're probably wondering where should you go. For my very first time in Japan, I visited Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto. People call it the Golden Triangle because those are the three most popular areas to visit in Japan. And I would suggest you to do the same thing because each places kind of have their own uniqueness. For example, in Osaka, you're gonna immerse yourself with all of the street food. Osaka is kind of like a food heaven in Japan. And this is when you want to try out different type of food in Japan. For example, like the fresh sushi, okonomiyaki, takoyaki, ramen, and basically you cannot go wrong with Japanese food. I didn't really plan a lot for my trip to Japan, especially to the restaurants or where to eat, because from my experience, no matter where you go, the food most likely gonna be amazing. Kyoto is kind of like a gateway to more of the traditional and cultural thing about Japan. You'll see a lot of people wear kimono, visited a temple, and that was also like one of my favorite experience when I went to Kyoto. You can rent a kimono for a day. There's tons of places where you don't really have to book beforehand. But if you're going to Japan during the busy season, I would always suggest you to make a reservation. But there's just something so special about wearing the traditional clothes and exploring Kyoto. They have a lot of unique temples and parks that you definitely don't want to miss. And obviously, you have to go to Tokyo. And I think this is no-brainer because most of the international flights to Japan are most likely gonna be flying to Tokyo. Tokyo is the capital city, so obviously it's busy and it's very unique because you can see the day-to-day life of Japanese people in Tokyo, people going to work, the commute, and more of the normal things that you might encounter in the capital city. Now, if you have more time, I would also highly suggest to visit Nara. You can go to Nara both from Osaka or Kyoto by taking the train. But I will go more in depth about the activities that you can do in each location. Before that, let's move on to when is the best time to visit Japan. So I would say you want to aim for the spring or the autumn season. Spring usually goes from March to May and autumn usually from September to November. This is where the temperature, the weather is gonna be amazing. But on my last trip, I actually went to Japan during the summer just because I want to check out how it is during summer. And to be honest, it wasn't so bad, especially because they have a lot of festivals during summer. This is also when I got to experience the Hanabi festival or the firework festival. Let me tell you, that's probably one of the greatest experience that I had in Japan. So overall, you can visit Japan all year long and you'll get different experience depending on when you're going to Japan. One thing to keep in mind though, you want to avoid the crowded season, and here I'm referring to the Golden Week, which usually goes between April 29 until May 5th or during the New Year's holiday. The reason why is because it's gonna be very crowded with a lot of tourists, locals because they don't have to go to work, and most restaurants and shops are gonna be closed because of the reduced hour, so you might won't be able to check out everything that you want to visit. The other preparation that you need to check is obviously the visa requirement. Well, from my understanding, most most countries get at least 14 days of free visa to Japan, or even up to 90 days if you're coming from US. But I will leave the link down below where you can check about the visa requirement depending on which country you come from. Last thing that you want to consider before your trip to Japan is whether or not you want to get the JR Pass. Now, JR Pass stands for Japan Rail Pass. So basically, it's a popular travel pass for unlimited rides through the train that's run from JR lines. And this includes Shinkansen or the bullet train. On my first trip to Japan in 2022, I actually purchased the JR Pass, and it was worth it because even though I was just going from 3 different cities, it makes the process a lot more smoother because every time you need to take the train, you don't necessarily have to purchase an individual ticket. You can just use your JR Pass. However, they increased the price this year. So when I purchased the 7-day ordinary pass in 2022 before, it used to cost 25,000 yen. But in 2024, they increased it to 50,000 yen. So I would say if you're really traveling to a lot of different region and you're using Shinkansen, then it might be worth it. And this is the pass that you can only get if you're a tourist visiting Japan, and you have to get it before your trip to Japan. Now, after we cover all the preparation, let's move to accommodation and transportation. If you're going to Tokyo, try to book a place in Shibuya, Shinjuku, Ginza. These are the main districts in Tokyo, and most of the places you want to visit most likely are gonna be in this area. If you're going to Kyoto, then you want to check out Gion or Kawamarachi area. And if you're going to Osaka, my favorite area is Shinsaibashi, just because it's very close to the Dotonbori area, but it's not as packed and busy as Dotonbori. For transportation in Japan, most people just take the train or the bus. And here is where you want to purchase an IC card. So an IC card is like a physical card or a digital card that you can top up, and then you can just like tap it every time you use the train or the bus. The most popular one are Suica, Pasmo, and Ikoka. So depending on which city you go to, they have different type of cards. But don't worry, because for example, I purchased an Ikoka card that is more popular in Osaka, but I can still use it when I was traveling to Tokyo. You can get the physical card at the train station or the airport, or just install the app on your Apple Store. A trick here, if you want to visit somewhere else straight from the airport without carrying your heavy suitcase, you can use their luggage delivery service, which is called Yamato. Basically, this is a luggage transfer service, and they're usually available at the airport. So basically, you just go to the station, drop your luggage, give the address of your hotel, and they will ship it to your hotel. This also works if you're moving from one hotel to the other hotel. Just because what I mentioned before, the most common way of the transportation is by taking the metro. So sometimes it can be a hassle, like bringing your luggage, your heavy luggage through all the stairs. Let's move to the next section, which is the communication and the little things that you need to know when you're in Japan. So a lot of people ask about, do I have to learn how to speak Japanese to be able to travel to Japan? And even though most of the people don't speak English in Japan, it's not necessarily to learn Japanese before you go to Japan. Obviously, it will be nice if you can pick up some simple phrases, some common things that you're gonna use often. I feel like the locals will definitely appreciate that, but you can always use Google Translate. And some of the youngsters in Tokyo or Osaka, for example, they do speak a really good English. I was so surprised because during my first trip, I actually went to Osaka first, and I always consider Osaka as one of the bigger city, but the amount of people that speak English there is not even half of the people that speak good English in Kyoto. So don't worry if you don't speak Japanese. You can always use the translation apps, and most touristy places or restaurants that have English translation. These are some little things that I noticed during my trip to Japan. The first one is Japan is super clean. It takes it to the next level where you can't even find a rubbish bin. So if you're going out in Japan, you do want to carry your own plastic bag to store all of your trash, and you can just throw it away when you go back to your hotel, because it was such a struggle to find a rubbish bin in Japan. But you can find rubbish bins somewhere at the metro station. The second one is people are so polite, and also it's so quiet in Japan. So even when you're taking the train, try not to speak too loud, even if you're just like having a conversation with your friends. I feel like everyone was in their own zone, and yeah, just like trying to be respectful. Try not to film like people in public, because that's also considered rude in Japan. Next section, we're gonna move to sightseeing and also the experience that you cannot miss when you go to Japan. So let's start with Tokyo first. Obviously, if you go to Tokyo, you need to check out the Shibuya crossing. It is the world famous scramble crossing, and even though you're just joining the local crossing the street, it kind of gives you a sense of like, I made it to Japan. I'm in Japan. At least that's how I felt. You can even go to a nearby cafe, find some building that has a higher view, and just people watch. Near Shibuya crossing, you can also find Hachiko statue and Shibuya Sky observation deck. If you're going to check out the Shibuya observation deck, I definitely recommend you to go during the evening or somewhere during the sunset hour. Now, tickets are usually sold out months before, so if you're planning to go, you want to make sure that you book your ticket beforehand. Next place you want to visit in Tokyo is Sensoji Temple. It is this one iconic huge temple that you cannot miss when you're in Japan. It is so cool to see all the cultural thing being in the middle of the city. People usually go there to pray, and you can see the locals just like paying a visit, praying and asking for blessing in the temple. They also have this huge street market in front of the temple, so you definitely don't want to miss that out. If you're a big fan of anime, manga, then you don't want to miss out this district called Akihabara. This is for the anime or manga lover. They have a lot of like unique cafe and game shop that you don't want to miss. This is also the electronic district, so if you want to get a new camera or like phone or video games, you can check out this area. For food, you want to check out Tsukiji Outer Market or Tsukiji Fish Market. Well, I would say if it's your first time to Tokyo, then it's worth visiting. I know nowadays it's getting too packed. The price there is so high, it's so expensive. So even if you don't want to buy food in there, I think it's still nice to experience the ambience. Like locals there selling a lot of fresh seafood, so you still can check it out. Just make sure that you don't go there when you're hungry, because you're most likely gonna end up spending a lot of money. Last but not least is Tokyo Disneyland or Disney Sea. Now, I've seen a lot of comparison between Disneyland and Disney Sea. I personally have been to both places, and I know Disney Sea is more unique because they only have it in Japan, and I'm glad that I went to visit Disney Sea, but to be honest, I had a lot more fun when I went to Disneyland. So here's how to determine if you only have to pick one. If you love all the Disney character, if you grew up watching Disney movie and you want to meet the character, then go to Disneyland. Disney Sea has better attraction though, so you can pick and choose between those two. I have more detailed about Tokyo Disneyland and Disney Sea on my previous vlog, so you can check it out after this video. Now let's move on to the things and places that you have to visit in Kyoto. The first one is Fushimi Inari Taisha. You probably have seen this place on YouTube or Instagram. This is basically the Red Temple. It is famous for the 100,000 torii gates, and you want to go here early in the morning. It's very serene, and it also has a stunning view on the summit. Next one is Arashiyama Bamboo Forest. So here, like what it's called, it's a bamboo forest. I think it's really cool to check out. I've never seen that amount of bamboo in one place, and this is also one of of the most famous tourist spots, so expect there will be a lot of people there. One of my favorite is visiting Kiyomizu-dera Temple. This is a really beautiful red temple in Kyoto, and around the temple there's actually a lot of places where you can rent kimono, and make sure to just explore the temple wearing kimono. It definitely will take the experience to a different level. From there you can also go to the Gion district. This is where they have a lot of cafes and traditional streets. You'll see a lot of people wearing kimono or dressed up as geisha. I don't think like you can still meet geisha there. I heard that was the case before, but when I went there last time, I think they have a new rule. Even if you meet a geisha, like you shouldn't take photos with them. You shouldn't take a video of them because that's considered rude. Last but not least is Osaka. If you're visiting Osaka, you definitely don't want to miss out on Dotonbori. This is the iconic area for street food. So they're selling a lot of takoyaki, okonomiyaki. It's filled with neon lights, and this is where you'll find the Glico Running Man. I would suggest you to go here during the evening so you can explore around, try out different type of street foods. And they also have a lot of places where you can shop in Dotonbori. The next thing you want to do is to check out Osaka Castle. This is a historical castle surrounded by park. And it was really nice scrolling around the area, learning about the history. When you're there, you're probably gonna see some of the students, maybe they're in their school tour or something. That is something that I encountered a lot, and I think it's really cool that the teachers, the school still encourage the students to go and learn about their history. If you want to visit more temple or shrine, then go check out Nambayasaka Shrine. This is the shrine with a big lion head, and it's kind of quirky. It wasn't as big as what I expected, but it was also like really nice joining the locals and just immerse yourself in the culture. If you want to go for another street food, then check out Kuromon Ichiba Market. This is the seafood market where you can try a lot of fresh seafood like fresh sashimi, sea urchin, or grilled scallops. And if you want to go to another theme park, this is where they have Universal Studio. I had so much fun in USG, and my favorite attraction is definitely Super Nintendo and Harry Potter. But those are all my tips. If you're planning your first trip to Japan, I hope you find this helpful, and let me know if you have any other questions in the comment section down below. So that's it for today. I hope you have fun planning your trip to Japan. It's definitely one of my favorite countries, and I can't wait to go back again. That's it for today, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye!